Listen for the words of faith in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verses 15 to 20. See, I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Holy One, your God, to walk in obedience to God, and to keep God's commands, decrees, and laws. Then you will live and increase, and the Holy One, your God, will bless you in the land you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you are not obedient, and if you are drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Holy One your God, listen to God's voice, and hold fast to God. For the Holy One is your life, and God will give you many years in the land God swore to you and to your ancestors, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Jacob. For the words of faith in ancient texts, we give thanks.
Listen for words of faith in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. You have heard that it is said, You have heard that it was said to those in ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to the court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. It was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife except on the grounds of unchastity causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not swear falsely. but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no, and anything more than this comes from the evil one. For words of challenge and inspiration in Scripture, we give thanks.
Good morning. Firstly, I recognize the first people of this land, the Gadical people of the Eora Nation, for we are blessed to stand and even voice ourselves in this land. Can I also thank Joe for inviting me to share in this time together with you. Such a pleasure to be here and also share with you in this room, but also those who are watching from afar. My theme for us this morning, God calls us for a greater gift of love. From the reading that we heard this morning in Matthew chapter 5, verses 23 to 24, are these words. So when you are offering your gifts at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. We're living in a world where God is seen as irrelevant and non-exist. And if there's any space to raise the issue, then God is identified as old-fashioned, right-wing, judgmental, and distanced from us. God in Jesus has revealed what God is like and has called us for a greater gift of love. Jesus, in this part of the Sermon on the Mount, seems to raise the bar for behavior and conduct that seems impossible to live out as human beings like you and like me. And the good news is, we can all be salt of the earth. We can all be light of the world. By living life as Jesus did, and the world then will know who God is and what God is like in and among us. Our Christianity should not drive us by fear that we have to do the right thing, otherwise God would not accept you nor even love you. We live and act out of what God is like. We act righteously because God acts righteously. We love because God is love. We accept others because God accepts each and every one of us. This revelation of God are truly in our text for this morning. You and I are called for a greater gift of love. Our lifestyle will reveal our faith in God. Let's learn what this may look like. concerning being fully, genuinely, and gloriously human, can I suggest from the reading this morning? You have heard that it was said to those in ancient times, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment." But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, and you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, "You fool," you will be liable to the hell of fire, it says. Jesus was quoting here from the 10 Commandments. You shall not murder. When we read this, we often hear as someone telling us what to do, don't we? We rarely take notice. It was a reference to God's self as one who does not tolerate murders. And Jesus wants to get into the heart of it all. I say to you, if you are angry at a brother or sister, you are liable to judgment. Interestingly, in scriptures, it teaches that there is righteous anger, by the way. The kind of anger I see members of Pitt Street is exercising through the advocacy work of ARC. Angry at the injustice against the vulnerables, the poor, and the refugees. By their anger, they stand up and be the voice for the voiceless. This is what God is like, standing for the justice for refugees and for the poor and marginalized, and for the climate justice in this country and in the world. But Jesus was not talking here about righteous anger. Instead, he talks about habits and conduct that we allow to form inside us against one another. Those from a sense of insecurity and wanting to be in control of others. That churns inside you when someone cuts you in a conversation, or in front of a queue, or in a slow traffic before and after work. That creates an intimidation that often bubbles up and suddenly outbursts in saying words like, "You fool! Who do you think you are? Don't you know who you are dealing with?" We often say that, don't we? Then it escalates to, "I'll show you where you belong." Furthermore, turning the hands that holds together to a fist that blows us apart. It was Mark Twain shares how these inward habits or conducts harms us individually. He said, "Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it's poured." And the wisdom of Solomon agrees with the harm, but goes further to what it does to the community around him. He said, "An angry person starts fights. A hot-tempered person commits all kinds of sin." It was to this unlawful end Jesus wishes to show to you and to me what God is like. Never to get anger controls the best out of you. Rather to be fully human, let us practice being reconciled one to another and make friends to each other as quickly as you and I should and could. Especially when we notice these internal relational issues begins to confront us from inside. These are easy to say, but so difficult to do. It may cost us everything, our time, our sense of pride, our whole life to offer a great gift of love. The kind of love shows what God is like. Love your neighbor as you wish to love yourself. At a meeting on Zoom, a friend of mine kept cutting in to what I say or try to say. I felt intimidated. I felt unrespected in some ways. I did not realize that I was switching off the computer, muting, and taking my picture off. Not only did I need to, but I was angry. Until one of the members of the meeting noticed and chatted me, asking, "Money, are you all right?" I responded, "Yeah, I'm okay." But truly, I was not okay. After the meeting, I realized that I find it very hard to focus and concentrate on the work of the day. So I called my friend and invited myself for a coffee, which he agreed. So I postponed my next meeting and went for a flat white and latte. I soon found out that my friend had an irritating situation started from home as he walked out. He had a near accident on his way to work with a bike who cuts him off in the road. And he did not realize he was giving it to me. He apologized for being disrespectful and asked for forgiveness. I then reflect back and apologize too for being so quiet and unresponsive in our meeting, and admit, my friend, I was angry. We reconciled. Our friendship becomes stronger as a result, as we share a greater gift of love one with another. Concerning those we value the most in our life, in Matthew 5:37 we hear, when you make a promise, say only yes or no. Anything else comes from the evil. I can admit to you, as a divorcee myself and remarried, I was reluctant to talk about this teaching of Jesus. But the more I think and pray about it, I realize Jesus was teaching a very important principle about committing ourselves to honor with high regard relationship that we value the most. I was drawn to the fact that the divorce teaching was between two very challenging practices, adultery and being truthful in making promises. As I reflected on the word of Jesus, I was asking the question whether what breaks a lot of relationship is one or both people were unfaithful to each other. In allowing our focus to wander freely, where our sense of trust and honesty to one another is put into a secret basket until, in recognition, it is out of our control. When saying men should not look at women as sex objects, we know as a country, as well as a church, that too, there's just too many women and children, and men too, are being exploited in such a degrading and abusive way. God was and will be against that. So should we. As truly human as we should, we ought to regard one another with honor and respect as Jesus would to any of us. Addressing adultery, the kind of lifestyle that inflicts, exploiting the other by taking advantage of them, something that Jesus turns upside down by sharing that the gift of love is about giving away ourselves so that others find in and among us the dignity of who they are, their value as human beings. Illustrating this, I wish to show what God is like in one of Jesus' stories. In Luke chapter 17, verses 11 to 14 are these words. It happened that as he made his way towards Jerusalem, he crossed over the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered the village, 10 men, all lepers, met him. They kept their distance by raising their voices, calling out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." Taking a good look at them, he said, "Go, show yourself to the priests." They went, and while still on their way, became clean. When I read this text, I cried. This is what God is like. Jesus gave these individuals their humanity. He grants them gifts of greater love, and only for the church to testify by the priest celebrating them. But the whole community to give them the value that deals them as human. That is our call. That is our mission. That whenever that we gather as a community of faith, when we meet people where they are at, they walk away finding and experiencing God among us and in us. As members of Pitt Street, uniting church. Our story is our life with God, both in our action and also in our words. The way we treat each other will only shows the kind of God we believe in. The one in whom our trust is put, so is the gift of life we dare to give. Let's commit ourselves to be salt of the earth and to be light of the world. Amen.